Welcome to the Sultans of Sales podcast. I'm your host, Jameel Pendleton. My friends call me Jay. Today on the show, our guest likely needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway because it's such an amazing honor, Scott, to have you on this show. Today we have Scott Becker. Scott is a visionary entrepreneur, leader, attorney, well-decorated, and I got to know you through your publication, Becker's Healthcare, which is, I would describe it as our industry's, one of the best sources of information for anyone in the MedTech space. And just so grateful, Scott, that you carve out some time with us. I mean, you've got such a decorated career, Harvard Law, partner at McGuire Woods, publisher, obviously, for Becker's Healthcare, best lawyers in America, Illinois super lawyer, all right, America's leading lawyer for business, right? You talk about private equity, you talk about obviously hospital, macro and micro things going on, physician news, right? Industry stuff. It's just such an honor to get to know you here on this forum. And so, Scott, thank you so much for carving out time. It is greatly appreciated. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Jay, thank you so much. Thrilled to get to visit with you. So excited to talk with you. I've got a face for radio, but I'll do my best to be on screen. But thank you so much for having me, and a total pleasure. Thank you. I'm excited to visit with you.
You bet. Just your post this morning, 12 stories we're following today. If you think about media, if you think about like what's happening, there's just so much that you're able to cover from your desk that we all can observe, improve, educate ourselves, build awareness. Why? Like, can you describe kind of how you got here? I mean, this is such a great place you are today.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm not sure it's yes. I mean, you've sort of sent me a handful of questions to sort of guide some of the discussion, and one of your weighted questions is about teams.
Yes.
And so when I look at any serious success or any small amount of success is in any kind of business, any kind of endeavor, anything is very heavily reliant on teams. And so when I think about this, when I started out, I had a certain drive to do certain things, a certain quickness of mind, bright, not brilliant, enjoy people tremendously. But the real key is, some level of strategy and some level of teams. And teams are the most important determinant of long-term success. The fact that I was able to build teams in the law firm and Becker's Healthcare is really, at the end of the day, that allows you to do everything else. It's sort of foundational to anything else you do. So, I got started a long time ago. I got into Harvard Law School sort of unexpectedly. And so I went, not dying to be a lawyer, always had an interest in business, always had an interest in self-sufficiency, being able to support myself, support our family. Came from a family where, family had lost job when I was in high school, so didn't know where we'd be and stuff like that. So foundational to me was always trying to make sure I could support myself. When I got into Harvard Law School, I went, and it was, it was a great life experience on a lot of levels. I mean, met so many interesting people, from President Obama to Anthony Scaramucci to Rod Rosley to all kinds of interesting people at Harvard Law School, and some of my closest friends. But it was really, just a platform to the rest of life, and that's, and many people, this is a different topic, but many people view a great graduate degree as the success itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we see so many people with great graduate degrees or great educations that succeed or fail. And it's not so much necessarily that binary, do great or not do nearly as well as maybe expected. And we always view things like that as they're a starting point. They're not the end all. The end all is not being at Harvard Law School. It's a starting point to that same drive and energy that got you there, to make sure you put that forward in the rest of your life. And we view that as a starting point, not an ending point. There's all these phrases about, it's the journey, not the destination. It's, health is wealth. There's all these phrases that we've been told our whole life. As you get older and older, the more you realize those phrases are largely true.
Yes.
You've had this magnificent journey, but it's a fascinating journey of, like, I was on a discussion with somebody yesterday who said, I met you 30 years ago doing these small deals in small towns in America, like surgery center deals, surgery center transactions. And that was a magnificent part of my professional life. That was magnificent. I got to meet people that I would have never met. I got to see towns and parts of the country that I never would have seen. You know, I've been to, you know, not all states, but most states. I've been to so many small and mid-sized towns, which I find to be so interesting and such a pleasure. And there's so much that it is true. It's the journey, not the destination. We talk about health as wealth. And this is, again, another phrase that's you know, lost on the youth. It's lost on youth. But as you get older, you realize, you know, you got all the money in the world, but if you die early from heart disease or cancer or whatever, it doesn't really make a difference. And if you live suboptimally because you're not able to take care of your health, your mental health, your physical health, you know, it's so true. So anyways, I've sort of gone off on a tangent, which I will do sometimes, but I think there's so much of that. Teams, it is the journey. It is health is wealth. Health is everything. Without health, it's foundational to everything else you do. And we'll keep on coming to that phrase. It's obviously stick with me to this foundational concept, but we think it's true. Let me turn it back to you, Jay, so you could jump and ask me a question.
First off, I love everything you're saying. I'm a very tangential, I don't even know if that's a phrase. I speak in these tangents because your mind goes somewhere. And then that's the beauty of a podcast, right? This is a discussion. This is something, Scott, I'm coming to Chicago in a couple of weeks, obviously going to miss you. But if we were to get together and have a discussion, that's the beauty of the podcast. It's a live and living thing. And then the discussion will build as it does. And you know, if there's something that someone out there watching this can learn and benefit, then that's great. So I appreciate and I love the open format here of just kind of sharing some stories. And I would agree with you. Teams and the function of a team in the strategy, whether it's an organization or just life, like family, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has a function and everybody has a role. It's interesting. As I hear your story about, and I saw something about you speaking to the graduate program at Rush and talking about like the future leaders, it sounds like just from my research on you and a little bit getting to know you off camera, that's a passion of yours. Just feeding into to tomorrow's leaders.
Yeah, no, what happens is I've enjoyed it tremendously. I had the great fortune in both the law firm setting and in the Becker's healthcare setting to get to work with lots of very bright people as they develop their careers. And it just is, it's very gratifying to watch that success of so many people around me. You know, we were on the phone yesterday with somebody who, you know, I was her mentor, you know, a couple 15 years ago.
Sure.
And now she's, for all practical purposes, at the law firm, my boss. And this is how life evolved. And it's really a fascinating thing to watch people evolve and grow. And I, you know, it's very energizing for me. It's very stimulating for me. It's very gratifying for me to work with, you know, bright emerging leaders. Yes. You know, I get a chance now to work with a few bright emerging leaders in Silicon Valley that are CEOs of you know, software service companies and other types of companies. And to me, that is just an absolutely fascinating thing to watch people evolve and grow. And I'm you know, and it is often the case, you could be a mentor and you could be a sponsor of people and so forth. The mistake that sponsors and mentors take is taking too much credit for the success of those that grow. What really happens is the greatest talent of, you know, we always say it's easy to be a manager if you have great people, you know, and it's sort of like, it's hard work to be a manager when you don't.
That's right.
So if you're probably, you know, it's almost like a coach, it's almost more important to spot great talent and then to, you know, coach them some, but great talent coaches well because they're self-learning, you know, they're self-learning, they're self-correcting. And so it's almost easier to be a coach. And it's a million times easier to be a coach and mentor when you have highly talented people that want to be great.
That's right.
You know, and we generally disproportionately spent my time coaching people that were talented to begin with, that wanted to be great. There's other leaders that we work with that were very good at working with people that weren't so driven out of the womb, that weren't so talented out of the womb. I sort of engaged with, and so the credit for the success of those people is themselves, not me. But I was at least good at talent spotting and understanding what made leaders.
I love
and
that.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it tremendously. I still enjoy it tremendously.
I love that. I mean, talent is a big part of it too. So we talked about teams, we talked about connection and spotting that talent, and then mentoring them to become the best version of themselves. And I do that a little bit myself, and have done it, for a while. I've always people gravitate towards me. I find that, I guess it's just this thing that happens where we share some sort of a commonality, and it's fun to be able to be a part of someone's growth, whether it be career, what have you. I actually get a lot of it out of it on a personal level, whether it's new ideas and new strategies and kind of like a different lens to look at what I've got going on, right, as well. And so I think it's, I don't know, iron sharpens iron, right? It always has.
Yeah, no, I think it's very much so. I mean, it's obviously at this point in my professional career, not at this point, like I'm so old, but it's much more, it's just very gratifying to still be connected to so many bright emerging leaders. It's very healthy. It certainly, I do feel often it energizes me far more than it energizes them at this point, just because, they're sort of in the prime of their career, the driving or the emergence of the prime of their career. And I'm sort of certainly later on in sort of the core of having founded a company and having founded another company and been a leader in a law firm and sort of on the other side of a lot of that stuff now. But to me, it's very energizing and stimulating to work with emerging leaders and see what's going on and sort of like feel the energy without being intimidated by it, because there's so much energy. So these people are like, whoa, I had that energy in my 30s and 40s too. And now, oh my God, it's sometimes it's both energizing and intimidating sometimes. It's like I was, playing a sport last night, and I'm playing my sport against kids in their 30s. I feel like kids to me.
Yes.
And it's like, it's daunting. It's daunting as you get older to compete against people that are, or work with people that are 20 years younger, whatever the age is. You're like, oh my God, how did this happen?
I can't believe you just said that. This morning, I opted not to go play Zilker pickup soccer. So I grew up playing soccer in Zilker Park here in Austin, where I live. There's really good pickup games, and all these players play D1 college ball or better professionally, right? And so I'm out there just trying to hang, and I'm on the older side of the curve, right? And the last time I played a few weeks ago, with travel and everything, the holidays, it's tough. But the last time I played, I pulled my quad, and one of the older guys, he kind of took me on his wing. He's like, hey, let's go take a dip into Barton Creek. And so it's this natural spring. It's just freezing cold water. And it's just like, oh man, yeah, these old guys we got to stick together, kind of like recover.
It's sad, but you see it in a hurry. I mean, it's 100%, and it just is what it is. But it's like, it is what it is. Just it's life, and it's life, and it's like they talk about this concept of aging gracefully. And I'm not in that. I'm not in that game. I'm trying not to age gracefully. I'm fighting it every step of the way, but it's not easy. But we're working at it.
It's awesome. Well, let's pivot. I want to get into Becker's Healthcare. I mean, again, that's how I found you, and I've been reading this since I got when was it founded? What was the origin behind it? I draw so much from it on a daily basis, and even we'll go back years and do a search and read and research and just glean so much information from it. So just wanted to hear from the architect.
Sure. So I founded it 30 years ago, and it really had different stages of growth. When I originally founded it, I was a young lawyer trying to build a legal practice, and it was sort of a legal marketing, legal branding, thought leadership type thing. Right. Before thought leadership was a thing, it was thought leadership. Then at some point, we started to have conferences in it. We started to have newsletters in it. I outsourced all the work in it for a long time. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the first stage of the company when I outsourced everything in it. I outsourced everything like conference management. I did all the writing, but all the management of the newsletters, all those kinds of things. And it was just a couple. It was all just in one space, in one segment in surgery centers. And then about 10 years after really starting it, I started to hire people. I started to look at this and say, oh, this really can be a serious business. Mm-hmm. And so I started to hire people, and I hired a bunch of people in a hurry. And this goes back 15, 20 years ago, 10 people or so in a hurry. It was expensive because it's all out of my own pocket. Mm-hmm. Hired a bunch of people. And of those people, a couple of them, one particularly ended up being just a remarkable leader, a remarkable entrepreneur, with me and with the company. And that's when Jessica Cole is the CEO and president, my partner now. She was the niece of a colleague of mine and came to work for me. Came to work for me when she was very young. And within a few years, she was just outperforming everybody else around her. And I was still running a full law practice completely.
Right.
And so at some point, we put her in charge of everybody. And everybody else was all different age ranges and so forth. And some of them were aghast that I was putting this young person in charge who was just sort of like, but a very motivated, very smart, magnificent personal skills, and very focused person. And I was very comfortable with that. And so, a few of them quit, a few of them did this, a few of them did that. And now, 20 years later, since they're hiring, maybe 15, 20 years later, since they're hiring, we're in several different areas. We're in hospitals and health systems, which is our biggest area today. Yep. Health IT is also our second largest area. We're still in surgery centers. We're still in orthopedics and spine. We're still in, some other sub areas within those. And we're in, we're events, which have been obviously largely closeted the last couple of years because of COVID.
Sure.
We're in digital, which has grown like crazy. And we've also in the podcast world, which I never thought we'd be in seriously, but we almost spent full time now doing podcasts. But what happened is it's all about leadership in people, teams and people. So Jessica then ended up really building a team. We built 4 core teams. We outsourced everything else. We built, a sales team, an editorial team, which is magnificent, headed up by Molly Gamble, Laura Durda, Ayla Ellison, Brian Zimmerman, a few others. They've done a magnificent job of building an editorial team. There's 30 people on it now. And just really trying to grow greatness in a few areas, greatness in covering hospitals and health systems, greatness in covering orthopedic and spine, greatness in covering surgery centers, greatness in covering health IT, and trying to be the go-to, we call it being a magnet for readers, for listeners, for audience attendees, and trying to really keep on doubling down on the core areas that we're in, while constantly making sure that we're listening and understanding where the audience is going, what they're looking for. I mean, we years and years ago, way ahead of the curve, ended up very much into short form journalism.
Love it.
Where people get what they need, but we're not trying to be a research institution. We're not trying to write 30-page paper. It's just not our business. It's a great business. It's just not our business. So that was sort of the origin story. It started as legal branding. About 15, 20 years ago, became more what I would think of as a real company. And then we've grown it from there. And it's been just really it's been really great fun. I mean, it's been great fun. Just like it's been fun on so many levels. It really has. And it's been.
You're I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, please.
No. You go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just from my perspective, it's you're connecting. I mean, Malcolm Gladwell talks about connectors, and you're connecting these specialists and these people who are really great in their respective niche or subject. But you've also got such a domain expertise or tribal knowledge about healthcare, about legal aspects of it, or the technology side of it, or the business side, the private equity side. There's so many different tenets or pillars of healthcare and MedTech. It's fascinating.
But your point on it is exactly right. And we sort of we try and encourage our journalists, our team, everybody else. There is no secret to it. You hit it exactly right. It's this mix of thought leadership, getting people the information they need, tied to connectivity, because it's a human world. It's a human experience. So everything is about ultimately this great mix of connectivity plus thought leadership, both. We talk about people that are great in business, are very smart, and they can get things done. Right. They're very analytical and they have good personal skills. We talk about this concept of that's been running through a lot, is this concept of agreeability. Can people live with each other? Can they work with each other? But you hit this exactly right. We look at it as being highly informative and highly connected. The whole team, the entire Becker's Healthcare, highly connected to our audiences, highly connected to our sponsors, highly connected to our readers, our listeners, et cetera. That it really is. We can't compete on sheer technology with the media platforms today. We can't compete with that. You can't compete with, LinkedIn, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. You just can't do it. Google, you just can't do it. Right. What you can compete on is in niches, being thought leaders and highly connected. Because that becomes the difference, because you can't win
No.
playing Facebook's game or LinkedIn's game or whatever. You could work with them as resources,
Right.
but you can't compete against them. But what you can do is be connected at a whole different level.
And the difference is, and Joe Mullings and I talked about this, the difference is you all and anyone on your team, Scott, are subject matter experts, are thought leaders. You're in the industry or the business of which you're reporting on. And whereas the other companies that you mentioned, whether it's big tech or big media, they're just the channel. And so I think what I see from you all at Becker's Healthcare, and why I love it, is the format that you mentioned, short form, right? The almost like a Drudge Report style, like listing of the titles. You can get the information just from the title, and then get to follow up later and read it when you have some time. Like in my world of spine and minimally invasive spine, and there's a lot of hurry up and wait. You're in the operating room when the patient's not ready, or you're waiting for a doc and he's or she are busy, and you got some time on your hands. And so those are the moments, the pockets, the valleys of your day where you can go read the information that you all put out. And for me, it's so targeted. And, we talk about, you mentioned earlier how COVID's kind of impacted the way in which we don't gather as much, but we do still gather right here. You and I are gathering, having a conversation on this digital platform. And it's fantastic because it allows people to build digital trust. That's why I do this. It's a connection point. So I love it, man.
No, 100%. And it really is. It's a core part of just this maintaining human connectivity, which is important to all of us from a mental health perspective, every kind of perspective, a impact perspective, and so forth. No, we're a huge fan.
So what's next? Like where do you see this going?
Yeah, no, we have. I mean, I don't think that much about, we think constantly about trying to stay focused on the present. Are we doing a great job with our core audiences, with the core of what we do? Are we doing a great job with those? Are we working on making sure at the law firm we're making the right level of connectivity, we're staying connected, we're helping people, we're influencing people, and the same thing at Becker's Healthcare. And then we spend more and more time looking at sort of we break life into three different parts. So bear with me. We're breaking into sort of the physical and mental health.
Taking notes.
We break it into business operations. Where are we operating your businesses, and where are we sort of financially making sure things are okay? And then third is sort of family and relationships. Are we taking care of family and relationships well? So we sort of, I need to categorize life, or I can't track life or feel centered about it. So we sort of break things into those three areas, and and they're all like different challenges at different times. Trying to make sure family and all the core relationships are working in the right direction, are working, are connected, are healthy. Trying to make sure business and finances are healthy. And sometimes on the finances side, with the market goes up and down, you feel like you don't have any control over it, which leads people more towards trying to have control. And then the physical, mental health, we're never going to be like this brilliant athlete or brilliantly physically fit, but we sure aspire to look at people like Gary Player, who became a fitness icon as an older person. Awesome. We view that as a very healthy thing, as staying active. And then we do, we are a believer that the mental health requires effort to stay mentally healthy and sane and comfortable and in a good spot. And so we're very focused on those three categories of life.
I love that. Scott, you're talking about balance. I feel when I hear you say, categorizing physical, mental, family, relationship, business operations, and financial, in ensuring that those buckets of your life and your teams are all running those checks. So, but what I find challenging, and just maybe some advice here, is I tend to get tunnel vision on one at a time. And so if I'm really, so I just started a new job for a startup, right? VP of sales for a MedTech startup. I know that my life's about to take a drastic turn in terms of it's going to be a grind and a hustle. And I can't wait, but I'm also, there's a part of me, somebody asked me, well, how are you going to coach your kids in soccer? And I'm just grateful that they don't play in the spring and I don't coach lacrosse and these things. because I'm not going to be here as much. And so just from your perspective, do you take, like, how do you balance those three buckets?
I think what happens is there's going to be times in we were talking to this brilliant leader yesterday. He always talks about dual tracks in life. Dual tracks, which is one track is taking care of the crisis at hand, and the second track is making sure that the organization, the large system, is also doing strategic planning and looking at the future. And he was the truth on all these things is always somewhere in between, which is one of my favorite phrases. I think it's true of so many things. He said, look, there's times through the COVID crisis, people could tell you different, but we had to flex to be 99% focused on the current crises. This is sort of life. And obviously with your family, you can't ignore your family to 99.1%,
right.
But there are times when there's going to be more stress on work than there is on something else,
sure.
and it just is what it is. You might not be able to be if you're a fitness addict, you might not be able to be as much of one while you're really focusing on greatness and developing a new career or a new job. It just is. But you also recognize, especially as you go older, that some of these things are foundational to other things. So you still have to mind and take care of physical, mental health, still have to take care of family and so forth, while you put a higher level of energy into the new job or to whatever it might be. And I think it's a constant, it's not like it is constantly checking in every day with the kids, making sure they're okay, making sure things are going okay, stuff like that. But it becomes, especially 3 different periods of time, when the kids are in school full time, they are not a full-time job. I mean, they're in school full-time. They're in a safe place, you hope. And so you're able to focus well on what else you're doing. I mean, this past year for people when the kids are home all the time, it's harder. It's harder to sort of excel in this while you're taking care of and minding the children all the time. It's just harder. But it's a constant flex type thing, I think. And it's, and we all get most things in life, we get better and worse in them. I might be great on my diet for a while and then I fall off. And then the problem is if I stay off, or am I able to get back at it reasonably well? But they're constantly, I don't think they're absolutes. I think they're, you're in periods of time, different periods of time, different things are going to take primacy.
You're absolutely right. And I had, speaking of different things happening, the dogs are going crazy right now. So I've just, apologies if you hear them bark. They're it's just part of that working from home balance, right? I mean, it's just,
and we don't even hear them in the background, just as an aside.
There you go. Well, look, I don't want to take up too much of your time. We're at the top of the hour. I didn't know if you had time for one more question or if you wanted to maybe promote or say anything and kind of share anything that I could, put out there for, I don't know.
Throw another question at me. It's great.
Okay. How, so I love this question. I just thought of it the other day and I'm going to start using it. And I'd love to get your perspective. You're sitting in a DeLorean, or for those younger kids, a time machine, and you have the ability to go back in time or go to the future. What do you do and why?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, for all of us, there's been special times in our lives that were just wonderful. Whether we want to live them or not, I'm not sure. But there was a period of time where just so heavily involved in the kids growing up, and the kids are now, at least rationally successful adults. Like one's an adult working and one is in college, and they're healthy, at least physically, mentally healthy, and doing well. There was a period of time of raising them and coaching their teams, doing those things that I just absolutely loved as a period of life. Do I go back there? Not so much. Do I go forward? It's scary to go forward. So you get to be close to 60, and I'm not quite there yet. I'm still 57. So you talk about going forward. It's like, my parents are still alive. My in-laws are still alive. They're in their 80s. And this looking forward is daunting as you get older. You already see, you talk about soccer. I stopped playing adult ice hockey about 10 years ago now, in my late 40s. And I just couldn't keep up anymore. It was a similar type thing. Kids were joining our team that were tremendous, tremendous young athletes, and I just couldn't keep up anymore. And the thing me and the other older guy used to say was, we were so pleased that we stayed on the list, that they kept on asking us to be on the team. They didn't kick us off.
That's
but
it.
It's like this looking forward is you try and find role models of people that are older, that have stayed engaged in the world and are happy and thrilled. You look at people like, there's people that are like, I just had a chance last week to visit with George and Laura Bush.
I saw that.
That's a magnificent thing, and how well they have sort of evolved through the next stages of life. And it's unusual how well they have done so. Then you look at people like Carl Icahn, who, like, God, might be 9 years old, or Warren Buffett, who are still doing what they do.
Right.
But seem like half insane. Warren Buffett less insane than Carl Icahn,
Yeah.
but that's not a role model. You look at Rudy Giuliani, who had to stay engaged in the world and just sort of like, seemingly went off the deep end, at least from many of our perspectives. Not, not good or bad, but sort of like, that's not the example I want. To sort of like, look like you've gone off the deep end. I mean, that doesn't look right to me. So trying to figure out what this right life looks like going forward is not uncomplex. And so I spend a lot of time in the moment in my 3 buckets of how are the kids, what's going on with, our family, what's going on with, business operations and investing, what's going on with physical and mental health. Because I think the future as you get older is a little bit frightening, but we're getting there. And we try and stay crazily active, crazily busy. We're much healthier when we're busy, but it's daunting. It's a great question about, do you go forward or back? That forward is a little frightening. And back is fine. There's some magnificent moments in forward. I'm sure there will be as well.
Right.
But it's it just is a fascinating question as you look at this arc of life. So we're a little bit daunted by the future, but we're trying.
Love it. It's a great perspective, and thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I personally love that, and have loved and really enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, Scott. And for the audience, I would imagine a large majority of my audience in medical device and MedTech already know about you and what you've got going on. But I hope that they've enjoyed getting to know you a little bit more, and kind of the story behind the voice, or the story behind the Becker's healthcare media movement, which is incredible. So, Scott, is there anything that you would like to share, before we close out? Any words, anything at all that you'd like to promote, or just wanted to give you the floor?
No, thank you so much. I'm inspired by your efforts. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you having me on. Just a great pleasure, Jay. Just amazing what you're doing, and just continued good luck. Just fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Scott. This was wonderful. Time well spent. And I'll let you get back to it. I know you're a busy guy, but have a great weekend and happy holidays. And hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for joining the Sultans of Sales. It's been a pleasure. Scott Becker. Wonderful. Have a great day.